Okay, we're live, and hello everybody on Sunday night. This is our first author panel that is going to be a monthly schedule, and tonight's topic is alien romance versus monster romance. So super exciting. We have Vicki O. Holt, Remy Cavalich, Geneva Christie, Cassie Keegan, and Michelle Mills, and Julie K. Cohen might be joining us a little bit later. Couple of things to talk about before we get into all of the questions is Bite Me MonsterCon. It's a brand new MonsterCon, I think, or brand new virtual book signing. And I feel like it's fitting to bring it up now because we're going to be talking about monsters. So all of the links are in the top of this video. You can join the Facebook group, or if you're an author and you want to sign up, you can check out the website for that. And then if you haven't signed up for Abduct Me SFRCon, and if you want to, the link up there is also up there. But yeah, I'm going to jump right into our first question of the night, which is, why do we love aliens and monsters? And I'm going to give it to Vicki first.
Why do we love both? I have ideas. There's like some of my ideas about, or my theories about it are a little bit on the serious side, and others are more the fun side. Like, so the fun side is, we as readers, particularly romance readers, we love otherness. We love adventures. We love the idea of exploring the psyche, the male psyche, in different forms, and particularly sexual aspects that could be different. When, you know, we love novelty. I think on the more serious side, it's almost a pushback against a patriarchal society where women have been kind of subjugated or second class for thousands of years. And so in a way, we're pushing back by saying, well, if the men of our species aren't going to measure up, then how about an alien? How about a monster? So that's kind of, maybe that's a little too serious, but it's something I've thought about.
No, I 100% agree. Remy?
Honestly, I don't know about anybody else on the panel, but I actually started out with monsters because I started out as a diehard Twilight fan, and that just kind of like introduces you to that world. And it's odd how similar the two genres are, as far as, like, you know, you're dealing with creatures that may or may not be human-like in appearance. The crossover is there, and I feel like the reasoning behind it is just because it's not much of a mental leap to go from ravaged in the woods by a werewolf to ravaged on a planet by a man who looks not human. People like easy.
Geneva?
Well, I'm kind of the same bent. I always read sci-fi, you know, when they first came out with sci-fi romance, that it became prevalent. I think I read everything that came out, and I'm really into PNR. And so with the paranormal monsters and the aliens, I always wanted that escape. And that's what I looked at it as, you know, it was total escapism. I didn't want something that was contemporary or like the rest of the people that we know. I wanted something that they were different. There were different attributes to them, something to attract you and keep you interested. So that's kind of where I come from.
Michelle?
So why we like alien and monster romance? Let's see. I like so much of it because, okay, think of it this way. Back when we were watching just Beauty and the Beast, okay, and then so I don't know about you guys, but at the very end when he turned back into the prince, I was actually disappointed. You know what I mean? And so I wanted him to always just stay with the beast. Well, so I love, every time I try to write just a regular romance, I always end up putting somebody from another planet or something, you know, in any type of story that it would be. I just have to add an alien element to it. I just love that whole idea of the guy that you're with is just not even of your species, who's just so it's sort of like why I like interracial romance or any kind of romance where even there's just a real social discrepancy or something like that. I love the idea that we really have to look into ourselves to see why we match with this someone who is so completely unlike ourselves, and yet we still have that same core of falling in love. And then also, of course, you know, I love me some claw, fang, and tail, you know, and I just love all of that. And then I just want to say real quick, the reason why I love monster romance too, because so alien would be all those dynamics that I love of they're completely a different species, but I feel like monster kicks it up a notch to where it could even be, it doesn't have to just be sci-fi, it could be here on Earth. And they never shift. This is beyond shifters. You know what I mean? Shifters will change, you know, and go back and forth. Like I said about Beauty and the Beast, staying the beast just the whole time, always, you know. So how it, you just think to yourself, so how would that work? If in Beauty and the Beast, if he never turned back to the prince, but just stayed physically looking like the beast, that's the story I want to hear. I want the door to open and I want to go in the bedroom with him even, you know, that's what I want. So, sorry, that's why I like alien and monster romance.
Cassie?
Yes, I like that too. So I think there's another couple of reasons, or maybe more than a couple of reasons, that we really like alien and monster romance. And let's just be really real about what those reasons might actually be. So it's cultural. It's actually the cultural reasons that we really love alien and monster romance. So let's just always keep that in mind. So, you know, how we get along with someone that's culture was so very different from ours. How would we handle that? How would we handle that? I'm asking
to find perfect bananas like that.
I gotta mute myself here. This is bad.
I'm done. Well, for now.
Okay. I should also take a second to say if anyone has any questions and they want to pop it down, they can, and I will monitor them and come back to them. I guess I'm going to skip the next one after all that from Cassie and ask, writing both, what are some similarities and some differences? And we're going to start with, we'll start with Cassie.
Well, there are some similarities. Usually there's a size requirement when it comes to both alien and monster, let's be real. And the weirder, the better. So, I mean, it can come in, dadgummit, my background is ruining my pants. Oh, God, how do you handle this? I guess I have to put it right in the middle there. Okay, it's right in the middle. That's better. So the weirder, the better. And yeah, I mean, how could we handle that? What what would our relationships look like? And honestly, I really truly do enjoy going outside of what real life is. It's so foreign, and I can make it whatever I want it to be. And a lot of the problems we can have in real life relationships, you can just sidestep them. You can make them something completely different. And I find the fantasy element is wonderful. So did I answer your question? What's the differences and similarities? Was I on topic?
Yeah, it's just writing both. What are some similarities, some differences? You're on topic.
Alien can be, I mean, Michelle said you don't have to be outside of the world to be alien. I think though that most of it is. I think it'll be interesting to discuss what the difference is between alien versus monsters when we get to that. So I'll stop and see what everybody else has to say about it.
Remy?
So in my books, at least, the differences and similarities, and I think this is, I mean, it extends farther than just my books personally, but with typical paranormal monster romance, for the most part, it's all creatures that we kind of have a general understanding of. If you say werewolf, people know, okay? Outside of werewolves and vampires and things like that, you have aliens, and we don't know jack shit about that. Everything is literally just an as you go, play by the author's rules kind of thing. And so it's not got, it doesn't really have the, what's the word I'm looking for? The familiarity when you're talking about the aliens. Now, yeah, you have the humans in the books, and you have the places like Earth that they might visit, and things are kind of, you know, have a general understanding of how it works, but it's got an air of mystery to it. And yeah.
Vicky?
Yeah, I think Remy really said it. Because even with monsters, you know, the orcs, beasts of some kind, a leviathan, or a creature with tentacles, or a spider type creature, there is, as Remy said, a kind of expectation there. Even, and the authors are wonderful because they go beyond our expectations, right? But you're not surprised if a spider creature has silk threads. And then with aliens, it's really the universe is the limit as far as what can happen.
Michelle?
So we're talking about the differences now between writing alien and writing monster, right?
And similarities, yeah.
And similarities. Oh, okay. So it is kind of weird because I have both, you know, and I, in fact, I literally just started, right now, I went back to writing a book from a series that I started ages ago, that from 2016, this universe, that I'm writing it, and I'm like, okay, this is pure sci-fi. This is pure SFR, you know, but it still has some similarities to the monster romance I had literally just finished. I just finished one that I consider monster romance. And then I'm going to go back to lots more monster romance later this year. So I was even thinking to myself, well, what's different about this one that I defined it as not monster, while these others before and behind me are. But this one it's got the whole species, you know what I mean? And it's I'm not that the other one doesn't. It has the extensive species, and he just is much more humanoid, I would say. You know, I hadn't gone with that series as further as I went with subsequent stuff. And the one that I would call more monster is it's still SFR, but it has where he looks much more scary. I think that would be the defining difference. And the other one that's just pure SFR, he just is an alien from another species. But the monster, he literally scares people. They scream when they meet him, and he blows fire, and he's got huge horns and all this. And but then and then maybe a little bit orc-like, because huge feet and bare chest. You see what I'm saying? Going that way. Well, then on top of that, though, I'm going to go further, and I've got other stuff I'm going to write that is even more pure monster, I'd say, because there's no species. You know, it's just that whole thing of, like I was saying before, the beast, when he just stays the beast and doesn't shift. So I just would say that sometimes that monster is when you just go further, and it can even be scary, and it can but it alien is, and it could go into other stuff. It can be urban fantasy, it could be paranormal-ish, it could be, you know, from that. But alien it's just pure SFR, science fiction romance. That's all. Sorry, I went on. Okay.
Geneva?
Well, I think the interesting thing about the monsters are that, like I think Vicky or Cassie said, that we accept those monsters already culturally. We know who they are, what they are, that type of thing. And, you know, for PNR. But when it comes to aliens, we don't know anything about the species, their cultures. You know, we have a free reign to build all of that stuff. And, you know, the interesting thing is, though, that you can actually have, I think, monsters that are alien, in the fact that for their own culture, they don't fit in, or they're the beast in their own culture. So there is the possibility to write a monster alien, you know, type story. And I think Michelle's good at, I think, you know, there's the, you know, that whole mythology or PNR section that we see, that we've grown up with, knowing werewolves, knowing, you know, all of these, you know, vampires, all of that stuff. But building that, you know, or having that what makes it really monstrous is when it's a beast that's unknown. And, you know, and they don't switch, and they don't become totally humanized, and that type of thing. I think that really makes it different. So,
I agree. It just reminds me, like, recently when I would say I got into reading monster romance, like, I want to say probably like really into it 6 months ago. And when I picked up new books and it was like a monster I had like never heard of before, I was so into it because I don't know what to expect. Like, those are my favorite ones right now. I'm very excited for the next questions, but I'm going to jump backwards first and ask, which genre did you start with and why? And I'm going to ask Michelle first.
I literally have only ever written science fiction romance. That's all I've published. I'm such a nerd. I like, other people have other pen names. They've done other stuff. They're all, well, I did historical and I did contemporary and I did paranormal. And then I ended up in science fiction romance. No, I've always been here. This is because the very first book that I put out was Post-Apoc, which is actually science fiction romance, because it's postulating or hypothesizing on a possible different future. You know, even if it's only a week from now, that's science fiction. And so then I did regular science, you know, regular alien romance. I did alien abduction romance because that was the thing in 2016. That was, oh my God, you know, that was new and different. And then I kind of ended up coming into monsters, you know, but I still do regular aliens also, because of course I do. I thought about going straight paranormal with shifters, but I still end up having to make them alien shifters because I'm a nut. And then, you know, so I don't know. I'm just here. I think I'm just here to stay. You know, I just am. I just got to accept it.
Vicky.
What was the question? What I started with, what did I start writing? Or
Which genre did you start with and why?
I mean, I started historical romance, but I never was published there. I self-published in YA PNR. And it was because I had imagined a race of warriors. They were human, but they had some really fabulous characteristics. But then when I found sci-fi romance via Ruby Dixon, and Erica Stevens and Wendy Lynn Clark, and Tiffany Roberts, I fell in love. I just fell in love. I don't know, the possibilities, the creativity, the world building, the science. Yeah, like Michelle said, I'm here to stay. I won't be branching out to other kinds. I mean, maybe monster, but yeah, it's just the unique heroes are a real draw.
Cassie?
What was the question?
Which genre did you start with and why?
Look, I was with you on the questions, but I've been really involved in the answers and I forgot where we were. It's science fiction romance all the way. Now, for me, because it's set in the future and that's where my universe exists, but science fiction romance is such a flexible genre. We can put monsters in it as much as we want, and we do. I mean, let's take Susan Trombley's scorpion's mate, you know, and her kraken's mate, and all those are monsters, you know. So I believe that they're compatible genres. So science fiction romance.
Geneva?
Can you tell me the question again? I'm
You
doing
guys are hilarious. Which genre did you start with and why?
okay. When I first started writing way back when, it was time travel and it was a medieval historical. But I never got that published or anything. So my first published book is sci-fi and, you know, dealing with aliens and with a little bit of crossover with PNR. So I haven't gotten to the monster part yet.
Remy?
So I kind of answered this earlier, where I started vampires and monster romance, where I'm at, an 18-man reverse harem based on Marvel men. Yeah, I did it, Cassie. I told you I'd work that shit in somehow. But honestly, like, paranormal romance was like my love child, and I was like, oh, I've got to write this because I wanted to do Twilight, but minus the teen angst, but plus like broody gothic vampire man from Italy. And I read a Ruby Dixon book because everybody was like, oh, Ice Planet Barbarians. So I was like, I don't know what's going on here, but sure, why not? Let's try it. And of course, you know, once you've gone spur, you don't really go back. So I was like, you know what else could you do with this? And at that point, I was already committed to being like a full-time author. And I had been, I think, like, my first book friend in the book world was Octavia Core, who visits with us regularly. And she and I got to talking, and she's like, well, why don't you do Alien? And I was like, well, I don't know. So I did. And, you know, here we are. Book 2. Oh, no, book 1, because I'm backwards. And book 2, which is going to be my project for next month. And, you know, I'm not sad about it.
Okay, the next couple of questions I'm excited about because we're going to like dive into the differences a little bit more. And I actually get this question a lot, especially when I started Bite Me MonsterCon. Where do you draw the line between monster and alien? Do you think more readers of one genre are more likely to read the other genre than the other way around? And I'm going to ask Cassie first.
Thanks. I believe that Michelle actually brought the point up. Alien has to do with a futuristic time set. I believe that can be one of the trope differences between Alien versus Monster. And that's all I have to say.
Michelle?
That one is interesting, like, because like, just what, so where do you draw the line, like this, like at a grading scale, like when it starts to go away from Alien to become Monster, and then even when it's Monster, what type of genre? Okay, well, because also I've been talking with I don't know if you guys saw, what was it called? Is it called romancingthemonster.com? My friend Celia Kyle started romancingthemonster.com, and she has a really awesome handy dandy, you can click on it, description of what monster romance is, and on there. And she even I've had actually discussions about this with other authors. I'll post, I literally not long ago, before I even remembered that we were doing this but conveniently I posed the question in this author group. I go, what subgenre do we think monster romance is? And because I have to admit, I was ranting in a chat group a while back that monster romance is in SFR, and because we invented it and no one can tell me otherwise. Damn it. Okay, well, I'm wrong. And well, not completely wrong, but we did I would say we did kind of invent it. I would personally, because of, let's talk about Tiffany and, and everybody, and going back to Ruby. And, but then it becoming Monster, because all the P&R people have to do is just not have them shift, you know what I mean? So that's their cuppa also. And so Monster can be urban fantasy, because you can have an orc during present time, you know what I mean? Or it could just be fantasy, because people were pointing out, well, isn't orc romance just monster romance, fantasy romance, you know what I mean? And well, then, like I write stuff that would be monster, but it's on another planet. Well, then that's science fiction romance. It's monster romance. You see what I'm saying? On and on. You can have it come. So it's kind of owned by paranormal and fantasy and science fiction romance. Monster it's sort of in the middle here, and it can be this one, it can be this one, it can be that one, where it's the setting, which is really interesting. And then, but alien romance on its own is only in science fiction romance. You know what I mean? That's what makes it different. And then you can have the two, it kind of starts to slide, a regular alien romance starts to slide over to monster when these aliens are so monstrous that they're scary, that they're different, that they're unlike, these other ones. And then I would say that, they're becoming monster. But it is really hard to figure out, well, where exactly does this thing become a monster? I don't know. So anyways, that was me.
Geneva?
Was the question about drawing the line?
Kind of, sort of. Where do you think the line between monster and alien lies, basically?
Well, I'm kind of with Michelle, in the fact that you could go into fantasy, you can go, into urban fantasy, you can go off into alien, and you're kind of in the middle. But I always felt that way about P&R too, because there are aspects of, that have always been classified as P&R, such as shifters, that you can find in pure fantasy books. You can find some of those shifters and such in an alien book, so the sci-fi. So I think there's a lot of crossover. between all of them. And what makes it monstrous is when that character is so out of the norm for whatever culture they're in. And so if it's on Earth and humans, you know, when it's so far out of what we consider human and, you know, the cultures that we live in, then we have a tendency to decide it's a monster. And the same could apply with sci-fi. You know, if they're out so far outside of the acceptable for those alien cultures, then they become monsters. So I kind of think that's where the line is.
Vicky?
I think an aspect of the monster that may or may not exist in an SFR has to do with our cultural understanding of just a monster in general, something that frightens you, something that scares you, something that's incredibly dangerous. And what makes that such an alluring romance is the idea that this terrifying creature that could kill you will soften and will make space in his life for this one human. And so there's like this element of taming the beast, but also just, I mean, who of us hasn't melted a little bit in reading a scene where the huge, terrifying beast is cradling like the wounded human girl, or, you know, she's passed out or she's scared or whatever, and he shows tenderness. And I think that just makes our hearts go pitter patter. So, and I see Cassie as just really being adoring with that one aspect of the monster.
Remy?
Okay, so we're still on the draw the line question, right? Just to clarify. Okay. I'll make it simple. I draw the line between monsters and aliens when I have to invent new penises. So, I mean, if I've got to sit down and add a new category in my Wikipedia, then we're in the alien territory. If it's something that people are going to be like, oh yeah, werewolves, knots, that makes sense, that's not alien. If I have to sit down and go, is it logical to turn this man's dick into a rattlesnake's tail? That's alien. Clean cut.
I'm just getting hung up on Wikipedia right now.
It's actually legitimately, like, I have a file in my computer and I have a written version and it's just titled Wikipedia. My husband actually walked behind me when I was creating it. And he was like, is that really pronounced how I think it's pronounced? Is that, am I seeing that right? And I'm like, yeah. And the goal is once I have the entire series planned out and all the dicks commissioned, I'm going to put the artwork together and make a poster that may or may not end up on the wall of my office, and I'll probably sell it on my website, because why the fuck not?
Yes, you need to sell that. Okay.
And a companion dictionary. Just saying, throwing that out there.
Okay. Have you theorized why the recent uptick in monster alien of the romance interest? Let's start with Geneva.
I'd have to say, with the pandemic and everything else, people really want to escape. That, you know, there's too much going on in the world right now that's scary, and, you know, life-threatening and all those things that really brings in that need for escape, and that's why they're upticking.
Vicky?
Yeah, it kind of goes back to what I had said at the very beginning. I just feel like this is a time where there's kind of a lot of uprising going on, right? Like people are waking up to past transgressions, past oppressions, and the pushback from some communities, like, no, you stay in your marginalized place because we like you there. And I just feel like on some abstract, maybe subconscious level, some of us are like, I've had it. I want a love and a romance and a community that is beyond what I can find here. So just a thought.
Remy?
I'd have to say the escapism plays the role, especially considering so many of us have been stuck inside for so long, which is 99% of the reason I became an author as fast as I did. It's not just specifically the escapism because of COVID, it's escapism in general, because life is not getting any better. It is getting progressively worse. And I feel like a lot of people out there are just like, what are we doing? What do we really have here? And being able to jump into a book and put yourself in the shoes of a character who is going through things that you're not going to see in your lifetime, or visit places you'll never have a chance to visit. Well, I mean, never say never, because I mean, if Elon Musk can go to the moon in a rocket that's shaped like a penis, then the sky's the limit. But I feel like it's just it's wanting a disconnect. Like I read to get away from reality, because let me tell you, the reality of a husband and 2 kids who are his identical clones, sometimes you just need a freaking break.
Cecilia just commented, a place where people struggle, but good guys, not necessarily the perfect ones, triumph. And I 100% agree with that right now. Michelle?
Okay, so this is basically, why is monster romance big now? Why do I think it came? So I've been thinking about this. I actually thought about this a lot. I come more from a marketing perspective. Okay, so back in the day in 2019, I was thinking up the series that I do now that's called Monsters Love Curvy Girls, which, check this out, it just so happens, it's literally, look at that, I love the title, Monsters Love Curvy Girls. So that monsters right there. Okay, you guys, that did not happen by chance that I thought up that word monsters. That was so calculated, I can't even tell you. I spent a freaking year probably thinking that, discarding other shit, putting it in and discarding it. And I know that I had started thinking about it the January 2019. And first I was devils, and then I just kind of I was bored just thinking of that. And so I just let that simmer in the background for a really long time. And then I was curvy girls, definitely. I was doing curvy girls. Okay, and I had everything. It's just I didn't have that monsters title. You know what I'm saying? Then November of 2019, I am at I've told this story before, I'll just tell again. I was at a romance author mastermind. So I'm sitting there at a table with a bunch of other science fiction romance authors. We're at this big table, and somebody starts the thing of saying, hey, what do you think is going to be the trend next year? This would be 2020. So we're thinking alien trend, because that's what we would do, what type of aliens are going to trend or whatever. Well, I was in my head, I don't know where I got this even, but I was sitting there secretly thinking to myself, I think monsters are going to trend, because I must have been seeing it. It must have been popping up, on other people's books, but not tons, just a little, starting to bubble. You know what I mean? But I thought, I'm being all shy. Well, no, they didn't start with me. Sometimes they'll start over here, and then you're going to be way down here. You're going to be last. So it goes this way. It goes. Other people are saying other stuff. you know, and I'm, It stops at Addison Kane. I always remember this. So Addison Kane, you know, she's sitting there, you know, how gorgeous she is. She's all blonde and beautiful sitting there. And she says, I think monsters are going to trend. And I was like, you know, no one else had said that. I'm thinking it in my head. I'm like, I don't know. She gave me right then, she gave me that confidence to, yeah, monsters are going to trend. You know what I mean? So when it came around to me, I said, I agree with Addison. Literally, it was just like her and I were the only ones who said that. So anyways, I went home, not home. I went to the hotel room that night and I came up with that Monsters Love Curvy Girls right then. I was like in my room still thinking about it. And I, that's that word I've been missing. There it is. And then I just kept seeing it more. So I did not release that though. That was November 2019. I'm still trying to get the cover artists together. I didn't release the first book in that until May of 2020 now. And still monsters weren't all over. They weren't huge yet. You know what I mean? So I did mine, and then other people were still doing monsters. You know, it was still getting more. I still, you know, I'm not saying there were always lots of monsters. There was always Tiffany doing her stuff. They're on and on and on. You know, it's S.J. Sanders has been doing monster romance since like back in the day. She has these amazing illustrated covers, but the word monsters, you know what I mean, being used more. So to me, when it really exploded, my opinion is CM Niscosta. Am I saying her name right? That Glory Milk. I can never say it. You know, that Milkmaid Glory, whatever. Anyways, the Minotaur romance. Holy crap. That was freaking one of the best romance books I have ever read. That is no lie. I put it up there with Pestilence by Laura Thalassa. That's what, I'm not kidding. I read it and I had goosebumps, like, oh my God, this is at some whole other level of good. I can't even deal. And then you guys saw it exploded, you know what I mean? And from there, everybody was swept up with monster romance, you know what I mean? And so I think that's when it really, really exploded. And then you've got, you know, everybody's Catherine Moon and Lillian Lark, and Katie Roberts is like, has a couple that are on pre-order that she's probably gonna do hardcover and audio like ahead of time before they even come out. And she's got illustrated, you know, all this. And so anyways, I'm just saying, I think that's the sort of progression. I think that it was when Seamus Costa put hers out. And then also there's been Finley Finn has been doing her amazing orcs this whole time too. Oh my God, those books are so good, I can't handle. And so anyways, I'm just saying, to me, that's kind of the sort of the progression, you know, and to now I'm just saying, everybody's doing a monster romance. You see all of these contemporary romance people who are like trying to, you know, I'm going to write a monster romance. You know what I mean? Everybody's writing a monster romance. And it's kind of cute. I literally, this is no lie, you guys, I'm doing 3 different monster romance novellas the second half of the year. All of them are in author collabs. And in one of them in particular, I think a lot of the other people are, there's just a wide type of people is what I'm saying. In one, I'm the only one doing sort of a monster romance. In another, all of us are. Oh, and 2 others, all of us are. Yeah. And these are other people who came from paranormal, not just science fiction romance, and maybe even from contemporary, and they're writing their own versions, you know. So anyways, and I'm not the only one. There's like tons of other people doing it on Kindle Vella. People are having lots of author collabs, you know. It's just really exploding right now, which is why there's even a conference, Bite Me conference, you know. So and Romancing the Monster website. So all of that is just like really boom, it's really happening, you know, right now. I think it's really exciting. Personally, I think it's really exciting. So okay, sorry, went on and on. I'll shut up now.
Cassie.
What was the question?
Have you theorized why the recent uptick in monster alien romance interest?
I have an answer. I appreciate everyone's answers, and I really do get involved. And I had a really good time when you said that Morning Glory milking farm really exploded. Oh my God, it was so great. It's a fun book. I believe that the pandemic has brought us a little dark. Have you seen the explosion of dark romance recently? And Vicki brought up the fear factor when it comes to monsters and things like that. I don't think necessarily aliens have a fear factor that monsters do. And I think that is like the dark side of science fiction or PNR romance, that you can have that rush of fear with a monster. They're going to bite you or eat you or, you know, make you suffer or whatever. And there's a lot of demons and other kinds of crossover into this genre too. So that was my theory.
Yeah, I like what you said about that, about the kind of like the fear factor. I feel like that is a huge difference in monster romance and sci-fi. Okay, when does monster romance go into monster horror? Let's start with Remy.
So originally I was going to crack a joke about that, because the way my brain hears that is, when does monster romance turn into monster whores? And I was like, well, that's simple, when you put in more than one monster to fuck. But
No, you cut out.
that's
You cut out.
not the question.
What did you say?
I said it crosses over when you put in more than one monster to fuck. Monster whores. Yeah, there you go. Bring up the bananas, Cassie. We know you wanted to. Anyhow, I have a love-hate relationship with gothic romance. So horror for me is something that evokes fear. And honestly, there's not that many times I can think of in paranormal romances that I've written or read where the character has a whole lot of inherent fear for the monster that they're about to fuck. But I mean, I really don't know, honestly. It's a really good question, and I can't tell you, because to me, a little bit of horror, a little bit of fear, it just amplifies the whole process.
Geneva.
I think with any monster, you expect a little bit of fear and that horror to a degree. What makes it totally different is when that monster really has nothing that's redeemable about them. And it's like, you know, the fear is, it doesn't matter who it is, or, you know, that I don't think they have that that romance, or that, you know, it's more of a possession if they have somebody that they're holding or whatever, and they don't have the soft side at all. So it goes a little bit beyond dark romance, beyond that. And that's the difference.
Cassie.
Oh, I thought Geneva made a great point. That's excellent. I don't read horror. I'm too tenderhearted. I can't. So I guess to me it's if there's a true monster element. I used to go through a vampire phase too. And I wonder if monster fuckers and science fiction romance lovers find themselves go through that progression of contemporary to vampires and werewolves and all that, and then they find their way into the more extreme, but still not horror element type of characters. I'm done.
Vicki.
I'm the same as Cassie. I don't read horror. If I have it, it would it would be a very small percentage out of everything else that I read. I think, part of that, being afraid of the MMC and, having your heart pitter patter, but then kind of falling in love with the monster. As romance readers, we have an unfailing optimism in the transformative power of falling in love. And so we do have, like Geneva mentioned, the monster can be redeemed by love. And that would be, I imagine, what is missing in a monster horror, but I can't speak to that if I haven't really read them. So.
Michelle?
So I guess they're just still talking about monster romance that just gets really dark. That's all I would say. Because it probably is something that's interesting to think about, because, you do like have that monsters themselves are inherently scary. They're shocking and scary, and that's what makes them interesting. You could even scream and faint, when you see them. And like, for instance, I was just thinking of that awesome, I can't remember the title, but that awesome cover. I think it's a Lillian Lark book where she's got that cover where the hero is inky black, and he's reaching out like that. And she's in that sort of whiter kind of dress, and she stands out looking scared, And then there's, or that BB Harper cover she did recently. Was it called Bite Me? Where she's I love it. It's an illustrated cover, and the spider again is inky black like this, and she's all she looks kind of Barbarella-ish to me, it's really cool. And anyway, so they're probably just talking about that. A lot of times we'll play up that that scariness, the shockingness of the monster being so different, and it scares you at first. But I just don't think that we're toying with horror a little bit. We're using some of that, heightened tension, but we're not really writing horror. We're just showing again that whole taming the beast type of tenderness that we were talking about before. And I would say, though, if this does not mean that there aren't authors out there who aren't writing dark monster romance. So I would just say that true monster horror would be more just dark monster romance. Just like I was saying before, monster romance can be science fiction romance based, it can be paranormal based, it can be urban fantasy, regular fantasy, it could also be dark romance based, So there you go. That explains it. Okay.
Erin, I would like to say one thing.
Go ahead.
I believe that the monster can also represent the ugliness in people's lives too, or in themselves. And to read a romance novel that shows a monster that can be redeemed, it shows that part of us can be redeemed too in relationship with others, and that there might be somebody out there that can see our ugliness and still love us. And so I think that's one of those elements that makes monster romance so awesome.
I'm going to combine the next two questions, and these are not going to be your favorite reads because we're going to keep that for the end. But what is your favorite kind of alien, and what is your favorite kind of monster, and why? Or if you've written them, or you can add whatever on to the end. Vicky.
I had raised my hand because, and then Cassie kind of said it, with in the Beauty and the Beast, when the Beast, in our minds, we're like, we don't want the Beast to change. And that's what Cassie was kind of saying then, is like, we love them just the way they are, just, as monstrous as they are. So if you could kindly repeat the new question.
Okay, I got ahead of myself. What is your favorite kind of alien, and what is your favorite kind of monster?
Okay. I love aliens who are, I don't mind, like, I'll run the gamut of humanoid to way out there. I love when they are unfamiliar with human culture. I love that. And then for monsters, I love when they're enormous. I love when they're a little bit unhinged. And I love when they have really dangerous, deadly features that they draw back so they don't injure their love interest.
Remy?
My favorite monster is vampires, and I mean, like, I feel like I'm betraying my werewolf saying that because I love my werewolves, but vampires are definitely the number one for me in the monster area, just because they're more human-like. Not that I'm dissing my monsters, but vampires also just have this kind of like air of mystery around them just inherently, and I kind of like that a lot. Plus, I'm a blood play whore, so that might have something to do with it. Now, as far as aliens go, I mean, I've read pretty much everything Amazon has thrown at me. I'll get through one Amazon book for aliens and they'll be like, here, have 6 more. And I'm like, hell yeah, give them to me. All of them. I don't care. I haven't really found one that I'm absolutely like in love with that like stands out above all the rest of them. I started with Ruby Dixon, but by far those aren't my favorite ones. If I had to pick a favorite alien though, it would probably be one that's going to be later on in my series, and he's got multiple. Hold up the bananas, Cassie. Hold up the bananas. Yeah, there we go. I gave, spoiler alert, I gave Thor 2 dicks. You're welcome, ladies.
Michelle?
I was just thinking about this a lot. I think with aliens, alien romance, like my favorite types of aliens, for me, it isn't, I think it must go, sorry, it's hard for me to even explain. It must go back to, because I started thinking, well, my favorite ones from, I always have loved, do you guys remember Zorn Warriors by Loran Donner? I loved those, and Rubies too, and Arlie Smith, bow, 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 and Arlie Smith, she's, amazing. So her, to me, I go back to that and as a blueprint, and I love the whole idea of there was always this really intricate way in which you were getting married or couldn't get married, or you couldn't be with this guy, you could be with that guy. There were always these reasons, these societal reasons that were sometimes pretty crazy, that sounded crazy to us, you know what I mean? And so it wasn't always, for me, for alien romance, it wasn't always the physical way that they looked. I mean, obviously it was. I mean, don't get me wrong, but it was that kind of dynamic. I don't know, that whole interspecies thing that I was talking about before. I just love it. And I love going deep with all of that. And then so my favorite alien would just be, I guess, those ones I just was saying, someone like Marak, Marley Smith. And then for monsters, I love, I don't know, I feel the need to write a Minotaur in the future. I just got to do the hoof scraping on the floor thing. And yeah, I guess that's it. I'm fascinated with orcs, but I don't know if I can write one myself. I'm not in the headspace right now. I'm more admiring other people's orcs right now. I don't know if I really want to write my own right now, but yeah, I guess that's it. I'm just like I like, oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking not long ago that I've written so many different types of heroes. I happen to not have written many heroes with a lot of hair, fur. Why did I say hair? Fur. Thank you. And so I'm going to explore that more this year. There's going to be some fur. Yeah. Okay, that's all.
Let's go to Cassie.
Well, if my background is any indication, my favorite alien is a lion man alien. So yes, Michelle mentioned fur, fangs, tails, claws, tail cocks. Oh, it's just so many possibilities with a lion man. And yes, I intend to explore them all multiple times, frequently. 3. So anyway, I didn't realize until I started this science fiction journey what a lion freak I was, and then I embraced it, and so that's my favorite. But when it comes to monsters, I think for me it's the beast element. Whatever they look like, I want them to be a beast. I love that. I don't know. I mean, that's all. I mean, I've experienced Naga beasts that I thought were fantastic. There were I didn't even think I'd like a snake. That's kind of weird, but wow, it was great. Yeah, so there's been so many things like even the scorpion, but that's all I have to say.
Geneva?
I think when it comes to aliens, I'm more into something that's bipedal and humanoid with differences, like, we all like unique peens and that kind of thing, I think one of my favorites back when was by Morgan Hawk, and she had a series that was a Interstellar Discipline something or other. Oh man, those were so good. One of the characters had the double peen, and yeah, that book just kept you on the edge of your seat through all 3 of them. Yep. Then when it comes to monsters, I typically like, I think, shifters more. I mean, I love vampires and everything else too, but I like the fact that the shifter can be humanoid, and bipedal at one point, and then maybe have a half form where they're totally bestial, and then be able to shift into their animal. And if their animal isn't that scary or whatever, like if it's a wolf versus a dragon, the dragon's going to be pretty freaking scary. So that's why I tend to like the shifters more. So
For me, I don't think I have a favorite alien. I will say when I started on my sci-fi journey, S.E. Smith introduced me to sci-fi, and so did Erica Stevens. And from there, I read everything. Like, I don't think there's ever been a sci-fi that I haven't read. And it wasn't until Amanda Milo came out that I got kind of into the more extreme alien. And then I found Tiffany Roberts and the Kraken series. And I remember specifically having a conversation with my husband going, I can't read that book. There's no way I'm going to enjoy that. And I did. I loved it. And then The Spider's Mate came out. And I remember having the same exact conversation with him. Like, I'm not going to read that. There's no way I'm going to read that book. And I loved it. And then I have just devoured Monster recently because of that. And I found Catherine Moon. I really like her too with monsters. I don't have specific monster likes. I just found I like them a lot. We have a couple of questions from readers that put them up earlier this week. And I'm going to start with, forgive me if I mess up the name, from Charnley. I'm not going to try the last one. Have any of you considered writing an alien plus monster plus human menage? I'm going to start with Michelle.
We can't hear you, Michelle.
I'm all writing it down. I'm all alien plus monster plus hero. I go, no, I have not, but I am taking notes right now. uh, no. Also, can I just say I rarely write menage. I do write menage, but I consider it exhausting. I'm sorry, I'm looking to see if my son is up. I don't want people to hear me talking like this in my house. Shh. But those of you who write reverse harem, I bow to you, because it's just too many dicks for me to like be figuring out where they go and who's there and all the blocking and figuring out if oh my God, it's too much for me, you guys, because I thought I was going to go reverse harem. I flirted with it. I wrote one science fiction romance that was reverse harem. Yeah, because there were 3 heroes. And but see, I made the error of putting them all in one book because I was thinking very Maya Banks, ish. And then I realized later, oh, everybody's actually doing it in a series, and you have 8 heroes and 1 book per. So I did it all wrong, and then also I made it really exhausting by trying to fit it all into that 1 book, So then the next, plus you can't even send AMS ads on it. Okay, so then I did the next one, Menage, in that series, and the next one, or I can't remember. It's a blur. No. The next one was still RH. The third one was Menage. And still, though, that last one was a year ago, and I was just kind of, what idiot decided to write Menage? Oh, that was me. And so anyways, that's my whiny way of saying no, I will not probably be writing this, although I think it's a good idea, only because it's just too much hard work for me, you guys. But I do love Menage, and I do love reverse harem, just saying. I love reading other people's. There we go.
Remy?
Does it count if all of the aliens in my reverse harem series are science experiments where they mixed humans with animal DNA? I mean, because if that counts, then yes, because that's kind of how I created most of the aliens in my series. With the exception of Groot, Cassie, that'll be fun to figure out. But I mean, I've wrote Menage before, so, and most of mine have to do with twins. So there's not much room for making one a monster and one an alien. It's just kind of like, they're twins. They have to be the same thing. Would I consider it? I mean, I kind of am, but I don't think you'll be seeing like werewolves in space meet human meet alien with blue penis anytime soon for my repertoire.
Geneva?
Well, I guess I sort of am. In mine, the hero starts out human. Eventually, he'll end up as a cat shifter. The female, starts out as an alien and then ends up as a dragon shifter. And the second mate is going to be like her. And then the third one is someone that it is basically a god for the planet, and shifts into dragon. So it's kind of in there.
Cassie?
I'd say that counts. Okay, so just to be clear, we are talking about an alien, a monster, right? And what was the third?
Human.
Yeah. If a genetically altered human counts, absolutely. I've got a lane and I'm running in it, and I know exactly where I'm going with it. And I have lion men, I have cyborgs, I have dragons, and I have one sweet naga that I have planned. So yes, I think those count as monsters and aliens and people. And I do write reverse harem, but I don't write one woman with just the aliens. I actually have a human male hybrid that's part of the reverse harems, and there's a lot of male on male action too. So I figure that the cultural norms for that would be different on a different planet entirely, and that's another way that alien romance can be different than other kinds, because we can take those tropes outside of our normal conventions. And yeah, I think it's fantastic to have these complicated mashes of people. And I don't know, it's just the way my mind works. It's not hard for me to visualize it all and to translate it into words. So I absolutely love this genre, and I'm gonna stay in it.
Vicky? I might not unmute myself. Vicky?
Sorry, my internet has been flaking out. At this point in time, I am not planning on writing Menage. Does not mean I don't enjoy reading it. It's just not really in my wheelhouse at the moment. So,
Patty Masberg had asked, some aliens have monster characteristics and some monsters are also aliens. Where do each of you draw the line? If you have a line between the two subgenres, how do you define if you're writing alien romance or monster romance? I do feel like we covered that quite a bit, unless anybody has anything to add. No. And then Molly asked, do you feel there are more possibilities creating characters if they are an alien species or if they are types of monsters? Let's go to Remy.
I wouldn't say there's more per se. I would say it's more acceptable to have a variety of interpretations with aliens, because everybody goes into a vampire romance or a werewolf romance expecting certain things out of it, because these are things that we're familiar with, things that we've seen in popular media. Whereas we know that no matter, how many alien books we pick up, every single alien out there is going to have some sort of variety to it, and it's going to be different every single time. Like, you've got Tiffany Roberts, she's got the 8-legged spider people. Not my cup of tea, but okay. I love the rest of her books though. We've got the bipedal lions over here with Cassie. In my case, we've got a bunch of people that are spliced with alien, human, animal DNA. We've got men who are, instead of hair, they've got glowing tendrils at the top of their head. It's like there's no cut and dry with aliens, but with romance in the monster genre, if I go into a vampire novel and your vampire doesn't have teeth, that's, you can't really, there's certain things you can't interpret outside of what's acceptable in that genre. If your werewolves don't shift, that's cool, but for the majority of the parts, most of the werewolves should probably be some sort of shifter. You expect certain things out of it. And with aliens, it's just, you go into it with a blank slate.
Michelle.
Can you repeat the question again real quick, please?
Yeah. Do you feel there are more possibilities creating characters if they are an alien species or if they are types of monsters?
Yeah, Remy, I really liked what you were saying there. I think that she had a really good point about the whole idea that werewolves are like this, or orcs are like this, or you know what I mean? But aliens are wide open, and monsters really are wide open. That's another thing that makes them different than just a werewolf. You know what I'm saying? And so it's sort of a spin-off from that. I don't know if I'm answering this correctly, but I thought I was just having like, okay, here, like weirdly, I write monster romance. Okay, but look at like my type of covers. Is there a monster on there? No, you know, I'm kind of this weirdo who I don't have the actual monsters on my covers. You know what I mean? And but I still write monsters. I think it's because I think of a lot of times of myself as contemporary romance based, more like someone else might have. They're connected to fantasy romance. Also, they're connected to paranormal. Also, maybe some of their books are also paranormal. You know what I mean? I feel like in an alternate reality, I would just be writing straight contemporary, or I thought maybe I was gonna write dark romance at some point, and I wrote like one and I wimped out and I realized I couldn't do it. I love reading other people's, but I can't do it. Anyways, I just wanted to point out that monster romance does not have to mean that you have an illustrated monster on the cover always. You know what I mean? And okay, I think I'm totally going off on a tangent here. And okay, that's all I think I've said all I have said. Sorry.
Let's go to Geneva.
Well, now after she's gone off in her tangents, I can't remember the question.
Do you feel there are more possibilities creating characters if they are an alien species or if they are types of monsters?
Okay. I think with monsters, you're dealing with reader expectation of what they already know about those, if they're the predictable paranormal monsters, unless they are a true brand new species or something like that. Then those combined with the alien gives the author the most leeway in expanding the, you know, what they can do.
Vicky?
Now, I think whatever we write, monster or alien, SFR, I feel like we're just kind of a bunch of rule breakers, and we do what we want, and don't try and tell us what to do, because we're not going to listen to you. So if we want to make a monster that is, you know, molten plastic residue that comes up from the bottom of the ocean and finds his one true love, like, we're gonna make it up and we're gonna do it. And so don't mess with the rabble rousers.
Cassie?
That is right. Don't mess with it. We're gonna make you fall in love with the trash monster. Yeah, I love it. The sky's the limit. The question was about monsters.
You guys, I need to like post copies of the questions in the chat every time we do one of these. Do you feel there are more possibilities creating characters if they are an alien species or if they are types of monsters?
Do I feel like there's
like for you personally, when like if you're writing?
More possibilities.
I believe that I know they broke me a minute. Yeah, I don't know. My imagination is boundless, as is all of ours. So I mean, we can make it what we want, whether it be monster or alien. I haven't wrapped my head around centaurs yet, because I don't understand the human horse part. They're not snuggly. I don't know how to make that work, but I mean, I could work it out, I guess. But other than that, I pretty much can understand everything else.
Oh my God, when you said that, I have always had a problem with them, and I could never figure out what my problem was until you just said it. They're not snuggly.
Snuggly. I don't know how. I mean, are we going to snuggle the horse part or the human part? I don't know. So, I mean, other than them, I pretty much have figured that all the rest out. So there you go.
You just need a good saddle.
Okay. One last question. This one's from Stephanie West, and I think it's super important given the topic. And I've had people ask me this question on so many different occasions, and I cannot give them the answer to it. How is monster romance different from PNR romance? Everybody has a different opinion on this. So I will start. Let's start with Cassie.
Really glad you started with me because I can remember the question because you just asked it. And before everyone else answered. So just to be clear, everybody, our question now is, what's the difference between monster romance and PNR? I think we can remember this, but maybe not, whatever. Paranormal has to have, in my opinion, don't lynch me. I know you all are like powerful. You're going to lynch me. Don't lynch me. To me, paranormal has to have a magical element and monsters don't. So to me, a shift is magical, or like a mind connection, or something else. You know what I'm saying? That's not necessarily just basic beast. That's my opinion.
Remy?
So you said between paranormal and sci-fi, or between paranormal monster?
Paranormal and monster.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I clarified. To me, paranormal romance books are books where they're more human based. Like the majority of the time the person is spent in a human form, whether that be witches, werewolves, vampires, whatever. Monster romance, and I mean, I may be biased because I edit for YD Lamar, and I mean, once you've seen a full-grown dragon fucking his girlfriend who is completely human, you really can't come back from that. But yeah, if they stay in monster form for the majority of the book, or they are in monster form when anything sexy times is going on, to me, that's a monster romance. Now, I mean, I may be a little bit biased, like I said, because I edit for some really wild folks, but PNR is PNR, and monster kind of, to me, it has an inherent expectation of it being not human based. So
let's go with, I'm trying to read the little title, please. Oh yeah, title please, Remy, by the way.
It's oh shit, I'll have to go back and look at, she sends me something to edit, I swear to God, like every 2 weeks, so it's really hard to keep track of everything for her, but I will find out for you, Vicky, and I will send that to you.
Let's go to Michelle.
So difference between paranormal and monster. I thought Remy had a really good explanation there, and because yeah, it does need to be more human. Paranormal, to me, there's like shifters, you know what I mean? And I love that idea that they're mainly, a lot of the times, human based, because you have to, there's a widespread in paranormal where there's even witches, and to be a typical paranormal, in my view, is like a bear shifter romance, you know what I mean? That's very and now if that would be a paranormal, that bear shifter version as a monster romance would be the bear with bigger fangs, and he's like that the whole time, he never shifts back. That's why it then becomes a monster romance, when over here it was paranormal, because he'd shift between his human form mainly, and then sometimes into his bear form. And then, you know, it just is, I don't know, is there, sometimes I'll have people say too, well, then when is it not does it edge towards bestiality? You know what I mean? Because there's that safety net in paranormal of he goes back to his human form. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I don't think so. Because he's still a sentient being. You know what I mean? When he is in his beast form. You know what I mean? So it's not an animal. You know what I mean? So that's why to me it's not bestiality. You don't have to worry about that. Okay, so there you go.
Vicky.
Yeah, what everybody else said. I think there's magical elements. I think spending too much time in human form makes it more PNR and not monster.
Geneva.
I think I'd agree with everybody else too on the humanoid factor versus the amount of time in the beast form.
Okay, I'm gonna ask everybody.
Seen that meme where it says, can you fuck it or not? And it's like, if you're like, hey, do you want to fuck? And it goes gronk, then you don't fuck it because it can't be sentient. And then you're like, hey, you want to fuck? And it's like, yeah, let's fuck. Then it's a sentient being. It's not bestiality or whatever. But I just love that meme. But yeah, that's what came to mind when Michelle was mentioning that difference.
Okay, I'm gonna ask everybody what their favorite alien romance is and their favorite monster romance. Everybody watching can also participate. Please pop your links in the comments. Flood it in the comments so everybody can read them. Let's go to Remy.
Ooh, why did you have to start with me? My favorite alien romance, honestly, is the one that inspired me to see just how far we could go with the how many men is too many in a reverse harem theme. And we all have Amanda Milo's Beth Stable to thank for that, because she was like, let's give this girl 3 alien men, 4 alien men, whatever the total was. And I was like, why stop at 4? Why stop at 4, Amanda? Why not 6? Why not 12? Why not 14? Now we're up to 18 and I'm totally fucked, but that's okay. That was intense. I'm so sorry. My favorite paranormal or monster romance, honestly, I mean, that's does the Never King count? Does that count? Would that count? I feel like that would be like fantasy paranormal, but like the Peter Pan retelling. Never have I ever wanted to fuck Peter Pan more than after reading that book. And that is a disturbing thing that I never thought I would know about myself, but now I do, and now you do too. Let's move on to someone else.
Cassie.
Peter Pan. I don't know. I haven't. Okay. Remy, all I could think of when you're talking about your reverse harem with 18 people is when you said I'm fucked. I'm like, no, she is. Like a lot. That's crazy. Geneva, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, but she mentioned Morgan Hawk. Those books, if you can get to Victoria's Star, and Fallen Star, and it's Interstellar Discipline series, I believe.
Yep.
Something by Morgan Hawk. Hawk is spelled with an E at the end of it. It's fantastic. So my favorite monster, I'm gonna have to give it to Christine Feehan and her vampire Lucian in Dark Guardian, because I saw the cover of that book when my kids were small in the grocery store. It was across the grocery store. I swear that guy's look, he looked at me and he made me go to his cover and he made me buy the book. And it was fantastic. And it started me on a paranormal journey. And I loved it. It took me out of my my world with my kids. Science fiction, I have to say that Susan Trombley and her Scorpion's Mate took me into realms of science fiction that I didn't realize I was going to love. And I started exploring it and really found a niche that I absolutely adore. And not only do I adore the stories that can be told in this realm, I love the people who tell them. And I'm really glad to be a part of this community.
Geneva?
When it comes to monster, I think one of the first ones that I started reading was My Beautiful Monster series by J.B. Treppinger. Or I can't pronounce the name right. But then I ended up going through and reading everything she's written, just because of that monster aspect of it all. When it comes to sci-fi, it's definitely Morgan Hawk. So as somebody that just started me down that road.
Michelle?
My favorite alien romance author or book is still to this day Arlie Smith, The Last Hour of Gan, which I was just thinking to myself, it's been a while since I've gone on and on about it, and I don't know, usually anyways, it's been a while since it was out, so there could be a whole new crop of new people into science fiction romance who don't realize it's sort of like the base, the beginning. It's you need to go back and read it so that then you can see how the whole genre progressed, of science fiction romance, because everybody read it when it came out. It was like, it came out before Ruby's books came out. So even Ruby's books were informed by reading that, and everybody else's books were informed by Ruby, and everybody, you know what I mean? Or, so there's just there's so much you don't even realize. It's sort of like if you watch the movie Young Frankenstein nowadays, you think, oh, that's boring. I've seen that a million times. Except when that movie first came out, everything that happened in it was new. And then everybody copied that movie. You know what I mean? It's sort of like that. The Last Star of Gan is just that important. And so I'm sorry, I went on and on about that book because it's just that awesome. And then I feel like also for monster romance, I said it before, but I'll say it again, is of course I had it up on my phone and now of course it's gone dark, but it was that C.M. Nacosta book. Okay, there it is. Morning Glory Milking Farm, Cambric Creek. C.M. Nacosta. I have it on my phone right here. And oh my God, that book is so good, I can't even handle. And so that to me is the best monster romance. I mean, it was an erotic, right, which is supposed to be buried in the dungeon, and that thing got to like #1 in the store or something crazy. I mean, come on, with no marketing, no ad spend. That is just amazing. Okay, so yes, so The Last Star of Gan and Morning Glory Milking Farm.
Vicky?
The 9-year-old is throwing a fit in the background. Pay no attention. Favorite SFR. Actually, and this can change monthly, but right now it's actually another Arlie Smith, but this is Cottonwood. I really loved it. And it was poignant and broke my heart and stitched it back together.
Vicky, I just want to say I could only read that book once because it made me cry so much. I couldn't even reread it. It was just
right.
I hear you.
Yeah, I won't be rereading it, but right now it's my favorite SFR. And then for monster, I feel like I'm gonna remember a book at 2 a.m. and I'll get on and type it on. But shoot, I just had one though that I was going to. The 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse series, Death.
Yeah, Laura Thalassa.
I
Pestilence.
I loved the last one, Death. And I mean, I love the first one too. Actually, Famine, War was my least favorite. But the Death one just touched me so much. So those are my titles this month. It could change.
Can I just say, your heart ripped out, but then you get together. Tiffany Roberts' Dustwalker is absolutely the bomb. It's fantastic.
I need to read that one. And I forgot to say, I love Android / cyborg ones. And so like Wendy Lynn Clark's Liberation's Kiss. Oh my gosh, the Android. You can cut me apart and stuff me in a box. You can.
All right, I'm seeing a lot of people don't want to put favorite books in the comments, but Megan did say Ruby Dixon, Amanda Milo, Tiffany Roberts, Anna Carvin, T.S. Joyce, Charlene Hartnady, and I'm seeing like Susan Trombley again. Yeah, so if you guys want to put favorite, we'll say favorite reads. You don't have to pick one, but put some recommendations in the comments for people who are watching the video. And that is gonna put us at the end of the night. And so thanks everybody for coming to watch. We will be doing another one of these next month around the same time. And I will say again that we're having Bite Me MonsterCon this year, so check out the links that are up there. And I want to say thank you, Michelle and Geneva and Remy and Cassie and Vicky, and I hope everybody has a fantastic night.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It was super fun.